Hello ladies and gents, it's EZScape, and today's video is the third iteration of accidental skip discoveries in speedrunning. But EZScape, how can you have multiple top 10s of the same video? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it's actually been 2 years since I've made one of these videos. Since then, a lot more discoveries have been made, and I also have a few I've never been able to share before. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. I hope you all enjoy.
Yeah, that was easy. Hello? I skipped the boss, didn't I?
During DarkspineSonic's casual playthrough of Sonic Mania, he stumbled upon a skip that allowed him to finish Press Garden in Act 2 without defeating the boss. In the boss fight, there is usually a tree blocking Sonic's path to reaching the end of the level until after the fight is over. However, when Sonic breaks out of ice near the tree, it will cause it to disappear. The tree that Sonic passes right before reaching the boss fight has to be lowered a little bit first, otherwise the tree in the boss fight won't disappear. This glitch also requires having a partner with you during the fight, otherwise the screen won't scroll after making the tree disappear.
Come on, dude, you fucking... I got hit! Wait, what the fuck is happening? Dude! Wait! Hello? Hello? Hello?
During a Crash 1 Insane Trilogy speedrun, CameronVengenz was in the middle of a Koala Kong boss fight when he somehow found himself on the opposite side of the level where only the boss is supposed to be. This is done by pressing jump and turning around after getting hit by a big rock, which will push Crash through the barrier to the other side. After doing so, Crash can spin attack Kong, and for some reason it actually does 2 damage to the boss instead of the 1 damage that would normally happen from hitting the rock back at Kong. It actually took the community 7 months to figure out how to recreate this glitch, but once they did, they implemented it into runs to save a whopping 30 seconds.
I would love to find a clip in this level anywhere. This next part. That's what I'm looking for. Any clip out of bounds here, anywhere. Are you kidding me? How? All I did was walk backwards. What? Okay. Where's Osama bin Laden? There's an arrow pointing that way. I literally just walked backwards, man.
The next game on this list is America's 10 Most Wanted, also known as Fugitive Hunter, War on Terror in the US. In this clip, Linkums actually was looking for an out-of-bounds sequence somewhere in the level, but before he even gets to start looking, he manages to get himself out of bounds unexpectedly just by holding backwards after spawning into the level. Sometimes it's just that easy.
What the fuck is it? I swear I haven't cheated anything. I don't know what the fuck happened. No, that's really sick. No, how? What? Now we are going to save, I don't know how much time.
In this clip, DarkspineSonic was in the middle of a Rayman 2 speedrun when he randomly got thrusted into the air. Because of this, he also managed to skip the Ganon boss fight, saving over a minute into his run. Apparently when Rayman grabs a ledge, there's a really short time window where he moves his hands towards the platform. If it is performed during the same time the skull Rayman is climbing on disappears, he will get sent high out of bounds. This is because the skulls aren't really disappearing, but are instead stored somewhere where Rayman is warped to. Although this trick did save a lot of time, it was really difficult to set up with only a 1 to 2 frame window. Since then, Skip has been rerouted to use a hole in the geometry to get out of bounds, resulting in an even faster Skip. However, you are usually not able to reach this hole, since this is during a chase sequence, and if you attempt to go through it, Jano will kill Rayman, which is probably why this hole was overlooked in the first place. However, by using the setup, you can open the menu on the same frame Rayman gets death warped from getting caught by Jano. If done correctly, a glitched black menu will appear, which means Jano is prevented from appearing, allowing Rayman to get out of bounds with ease.
I need an 8 or a 10, it looks like. No, I need an 8 or a 9, okay. 8 or a 9, okay, that makes sense. Eight or 9. Hello? What did I just do? Wait, hello? What? Hello? Wait. What happened? What board is this? What? What is going on? Hello? What? You can't do that. You can't have 3 people on a battle space. What happened? Or on a dual map? What is this? Hello? What? This is so weird. I knew it was gonna end. I knew it was gonna end as soon as I did that. Would this count for the run? Hang on. Wait a minute. That counts! Does it not count?
In this clip, one-up girl Ecdycis was in the middle of a Mario Party 3 speedrun when she randomly stumbled upon a wrong warp, which is not something you just accidentally do, especially in a game like Mario Party, where you really don't have much control of your character outside of scripted events. So what exactly happened here? Well, at the start of the run, Ecdycis managed to win the first dice roll, which means first turn on the board. When speedrunners get first turn on the first board, a lot of the time they will quit out of the board and restart it to grind for wacky watches, which changes the turn number of the board you're playing on to 5 turns, which would save a lot of time at the start of a 15-turn game. Ecdycis exited the board, and when she went back in, Luigi was not at the start of Chilly Waters, but instead on the Gate Guy board, which is usually the second board in the run. This board is only a 1v1 board, so Peach and Donkey Kong from the first board were nowhere to be seen, but for some reason there was a Peach tile, which is not a normal occurrence at all. After finishing the dice roll, the game was already over since the 1v1 boards end whenever a player runs out of HP, and at the start of the turn both players had 0. Luigi won, however, due to having more coins. Since discovering this wrong warp, Ecdycis has managed to replicate it one other time. Interestingly though, the first minigame for both runs where the wrong warp occurred was Bounce and Trounce, so it's possible it was a factor. Another theory is that the glitch occurred because Ecdycis plays on an EverDrive, which has been the main reason nobody has tried to replicate the glitch. I've never heard of people having such issues with EverDrive, but who knows.
I'm confused. Oh dude, can you try something for me?
What?
Did you die?
I think I just found Krew Skip.
Wait, what?
I found Krew Skip.
What? Wait.
I killed him instantly.
In this clip, Raccoon1337 was in the middle of the Krew boss fight during a Jak 2 speedrun when a huge skip occurred. After finishing the first phase of the Krew fight, he shot him against the wall, he clipped through the floor, and the boss fight suddenly ended, saving 3 minutes on his splits. This glitch occurred 5 years ago, and since then it has never been reproduced, despite being highly sought after. My best guess to why the boss fight abruptly ended is because Krew may have hit the death plane underneath, but who really knows?
We'll be getting the ending that we are getting for the speedrun. We're almost at the end of the run as well. We're going to have to run up to a cutscene and then do one more panic event, but we're almost done. I hope you enjoyed Nightcry so far. I feel like it's been pretty good. Oh, get up there, Rooney. Haha, no man. Oh, what? What?
Rooney, you gonna let them kill you? You still haven't let go of your death wish?
You're right. Sorry.
In this clip, Ecdycis was in the middle of a Nightcry speedrun when he accidentally skipped the final cutscene, saving 2 minutes in time. Cutscene skips actually aren't all that uncommon in Nightcry. It's apparently an extremely buggy game. But this cutscene specifically was never known to be skippable. The other cutscenes which are normally skippable are called panic events, which are in-game events that require you to mash click the mouse or else a protagonist will die. By mashing the skip cutscene button early enough, it's possible to skip the end of the panic event, saving a few seconds each time. The cutscene that Ecdycis skipped normally leads to a puzzle spot where you have to use an eye on the main character to finish the game, and was the first time he's ever seen a non-panic cutscene be skipped. As for replicating the glitch, Ecdycis was able to verify it again for another run, but there doesn't seem to be a way to intentionally perform it, since Ecdycis wasn't even touching the keyboard when the skip occurred because they assumed they'd be watching a cutscene. At least this wasn't a world record run, otherwise it would theoretically be unbeatable.
Weirdly, one of the most popular Genesis titles in Japan.
Oh, really? Wait, what the fuck?
Why are you just killing him? And now you're zipping.
Wait,
What
what's...
are you doing?
My answer, I'm not doing anything.
You just, the game just did a big ass glitch in the beginning of the stage.
Yeah.
And I'll go back and watch that.
This game's showing you the speedrun strats in the attract mode.
Wait, I didn't even press start and I can play? I can play in the attract mode. What is this?
The next game on this list is Dynamite Headdy for the Sega Genesis. Chronoon was in the middle of marathoning every single Genesis game made by Treasure, calling it Treasure 6. Dynamite Headdy was a part of this bunch, including Gunstar Heroes, McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure, and also this Yu Yu Hakusho game. After switching from McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure and booting up Dynamite Headdy, the game started behaving very strangely. Before even pressing start, the game started playing a demo, and some glitchy side effects like zipping occurred. After his character died, he grabbed his controller and also realized he was able to play within the demo itself, which in this case skipped the beginning parts of the game, including the beginning autoscroller and small tutorial level. Also, the zip effect was still lasting for a bit at the start, allowing Chronoon to save an additional minute. If you were able to perform this glitch in other demos, Chronoon estimates that you would save anywhere from 8 to 25 minutes, and this game's speedrun is only 37 minutes long. Unfortunately though, this is the first and only time a glitch like this has ever occurred, and Chronoon suspects that it was either caused by a slight cartridge tilt or dirty contact, unless someone does find a way to replicate it. But even if it was a cartridge tilt, it was still an exciting glitch nonetheless.
One. I did it. What? Game? I won! I won!
So in this clip, RatRacing managed to find a way to kill Ganon really quickly in Cadence of Hyrule. This is a rhythm game and all in-game actions have to be timed with the music. Since actions are always performed at the same time, the game has to have a way to prioritize who goes first in those instances. For example, heavier enemies generally have a higher priority than the smaller ones, bosses have higher priority than those, and you, the player, have the highest level of priority. By attacking Ganon, you trigger the phase transition, which will then start a cutscene. But during the start of the cutscene, Ganon's shield is deactivated, which means he's completely vulnerable until his next turn. In Rat's clip, he got hit by fire, and that fire spread to a bomb fairy right before the cutscene started. Since burn has priority over enemies, it triggered the bomb fairy, and then the bomb fairy damaged Ganon while his shield was down before the cutscene started. This eventually led to many other ways of performing the quick kill, the first method found by throwing a bomb fairy yourself, since it has priority over every enemy in the game, including Ganon. Luckily, if you skip a cutscene while Ganon isn't alive, the game treats it as if you beat the game, since alternatively, if you kill Ganon and the cutscene does play, you get softlocked. The latest and fastest method for performing the trick was by aiming the bow at Ganon as the cutscene started, and Ganon would just die. However, on December 18th, all these methods were eventually patched out.
I'm not gonna leave here until I get the damn explanation. Oh, me?
In this clip, Revenge 2 managed to find a credits warp in Zool, Ninja of the Nth Dimension for the Sega Genesis. Like we've seen with a lot of games on this list, that there are a lot of crazy skips and tricks that can just never be performed again, whether it be malfunctioning hardware or a lack of understanding of a trick. But this time, it's real. Revenge 2 actually found a wrong warp from a random stage straight to the end of the game. I got in contact with Revenge, and he let me know that he personally had no idea how it was performed, but apparently there was a speedrun somewhere that existed of someone using it. but I've looked around and I haven't been able to find it anywhere. But with impeccable timing, someone that goes by the username the 8-Bit Beast posted a task for this game a little over a week ago, showing off the trick with notes on how it's performed. And I also found the video that Revenge was referring to. It wasn't listed on YouTube. Of course. Grayson is the one to provide the button file that recreated the glitch, but they did it on a much later level than what was possible. The requirements for the glitch was a bouncy surface and an enemy, meaning World 2 would be the first viable level to perform the glitch. All you have to do is have an enemy hit you onto the drum and apparently skip straight to the credits. 8-Bit doesn't know exactly why it works, and knowing this information really wouldn't make the task any faster, like they say in their notes. If you guys are interested in seeing this glitch in an actual speedrun, I'll go for it, but only if this video hits 10,000 likes. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, as it's the best way to show support, or if you're just a Zool enthusiast. This was a really fun video to make, but it'll probably be another long while before I can produce another. Anyways guys, make sure you check out my Twitch, as I do stream regularly, and if you're not able to make it to those streams, make sure you check out the second channel for even more content. That's pretty much all I have to say. Subscribe for more speedrunning related content, and as always, I hope you all have a beautiful life.